Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker and the host of this Daisy Jones and the Six rewatch podcast. Now, when I speak, my topic is something I call Take the Doughnut, which is another way to say carpe diem, and it's all about going after the things you want in life. So, something that I wanted to do this year was rewatch the show Daisy Jones and the Six, but this time talk about it with other people, with whoever wanted to talk about it with me. And now I'm doing the really fun part. I'm getting a chance to talk with cast and crew about their work on the show, which is bringing all these new details to the surface. So I'm very excited to do an interview today with a guest that I'm about to introduce. But first, just a quick housekeeping item. If you are brand new to the show Daisy Jones and the Six, this will likely have some spoilers, this conversation. So just be aware of that up front. If you haven't seen the whole show, maybe go back, binge it. It's 10 episodes. They're really good. And then come back to this interview. But if you're good to go, welcome. And I'm so excited to introduce my guest for today, who is Nicole LaLiberté, who played Jean, Daisy's mother, in episodes 1 and 10. Welcome.
Hi. Well done with the pronunciation.
I mean, we've been working on this. We workshopped a little bit. We got it. We made it. I am so excited to talk with you about this character that you played. But before we do that, I'll start where I always start, which is ask you, how did you get this role? How did the job come to you?
Um, Jean came through the traditional channels. I got a self-tape audition, and from the self-tape I was pinned, and then I went in for a callback, and then producers gave the thumbs up, and then I got an offer. It was a pretty streamlined process, and when I got the material, it felt very familiar to me.
Mm.
Jean felt
And
very familiar. So when I was working on the audition material initially, it I didn't have to go far.
mm, I'm
Which I
sorry to hear that because
Yeah.
she feels familiar to me too. So
I'm
I
sorry
think
to
that's
hear
why I'm so curious about. I know we're just giving each other a
that.
hug. To all the people watching this who Jean felt familiar to, big
We hug.
hugs from us. Actually, I'm curious because COVID happened somewhere in that. Did you do all this process of auditioning before COVID or after COVID? When did you get into the mix?
I think I think that I it happened right before COVID,
Hmm.
or like or maybe just at the very, very beginning of COVID. And then it went away for 2 years, basically. And then we picked it back up.
Yeah, and then it resurfaced for you.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so given that the series had a 10 episode run, but you appear in the beginning and the end, how much did you know about the role when you booked it?
When I booked it, it was actually just the one episode. And then the last one was added in later, or I'm not sure they hadn't finished writing it at the time. All I knew was that she was gnarly, and she was really gnarly, and it wasn't it it I didn't have a lot to work with, and I had to have like maximum impact with minimal time. And of course that it was period and that I would be playing Riley's mother.
Hmm. Yeah, and you can't even really go to the book for it because Jean isn't very fleshed out in the book, I don't find. So like really what you had on the page was what you had. So
Yeah, it was just that I carried that gnarly energy in me.
you were very, very effective, Nicole. If you
Um,
listen back to my deep dives of the episodes that you're in, you will see that it rocked me to my core.
oh wow.
Um,
I really want to know. Okay.
well, okay, so, like with any character, you need to know what Jean is doing and why she's doing it. But also, part of what makes Jean so impactful is the impact she leaves on Daisy and that we can feel it for the whole show. So even when you're not on screen, even when you're not in episodes, we can feel that in some way this experience with her mother is what is motivating Daisy or what is informing Daisy's choices. So, how did you approach playing this character, maybe knowing that the ripple effects that she's creating have to go on for all those episodes?
Well, I mean, isn't that just the nature of mother? I mean, the nature of mother and generational trauma, right? So, I mean, 10 episodes is nothing, right?
It's so true.
Lifetimes. Yeah, I mean, I mean, when I'm working with the character, I'm really embedding myself in that thing. I'm actually not, I'm not really thinking about I'm not thinking about how I'm affecting. I'm literally just connecting and releasing, and then it's whoever else's job to deal with it. uh, which is also kind of her mother. I mean, I think she's very deeply unconscious and probably believes that in some way, she's protecting Daisy from the harsh, horrible world. Um, but it really is control and and power,
Yeah.
um, and punishment.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When you thought about playing her, how much backstory did you give to Jean for yourself, in your prep as a woman, as a mother, especially with that first episode being back in the early 60s?
Yeah, I did a little bit of inner work creating history for her. That I then, of course, like, I forget it. When I'm working, I'm not thinking about that. But as an actor, like, you do your homework and you go down, and I fleshed it out until I felt done. And it's a very specific feeling of like, oh, I'm done now. And then you're just in the moment on set, and the moment is totally different than anything you could ever have prepared for.
Were there any particular things that you had decided in the way you were fleshing her out that really informed you that you even remember now, or was it all just sort of an essence?
Well, the really the main piece was history for me with my grandmother and my mother and my mother's mother, and a certain specific energy and imprint that I was gifted the lesson of, right? And then had to work through up until now. Um,
Hmm.
so, some roles it's very clear, like very specific, but this one was very deeply personal to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to think that much.
Mm.
It was really just there.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
and it's so nice when you don't have to overthink.
Yeah, when you can just be that person.
Yeah, I could just kind of rest and trust in my own kind of atmosphere, the atmosphere of childhood, or the atmosphere of my grandmother's house.
Mm.
And, just kind of like a cold, hard no.
Hmm. That's a really good way of describing her.
Right?
My goodness, a cold
Yeah.
hard no. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's it. That's Jean.
Yeah. But it's like you have that cold, hard no. And there's so many different ways to express that cold, hard no, given circumstances. I mean, it would have been fun to have more scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it
No,
would have been soul
yeah.
crushing and fascinating all at the same time. I mean, I let's get into some of the specific scenes that you did in your episodes. And what I'll do here for those who haven't watched the show in a little bit, I'm gonna like sort of paint a picture of these scenes before I ask questions about it. So if we look at episode one, which is called "Come and Get It." So we're going to really establish what life looked like for Daisy in 1961 in LA. She's 8 years old at the time. We see Jean, her mother, and her father hosting a cocktail party at their home, which feels like a regular occurrence. They can hear Daisy singing in her bedroom, and the sound of their daughter's voice is clearly unwelcome. And Jean goes to Daisy's room, squats in front of her, and says, "Do you ever shut up? No one wants to hear your voice." Um, she leaves the room. She tells her friends, "I swear she was put on this earth to embarrass me." It has this menacing quality to it. We see little Daisy seems afraid of her mom, like actually shrinks away from her mom.
Mm.
The show from the very beginning paints this unsympathetic portrait of Jean in this sequence, but as the person who has to play her, um, you need to maybe understand her more than the audience would in this moment. Uh, how did you see Jean? Like, how did you get to this place to play her?
Um, how did I get to that specific energy in that scene? I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, that little girl was so amazing, though. I just want to say I would be after each take, I would lean down and say, "I'm so sorry." So, she said, it's okay. And I said, "Oh, okay." So then I'd go out and I'd give it another bash. Um,
What do you remember about working with her? Because there really is like that standing over her.
it's like looming. It's just it's hard to express because it's such an atmosphere for me. I went into like my own kind of vapor land and was kind of in contact with these kind of ancestors that were supporting the performance. Which might sound kind of weird, but it
Mhm.
is. It's just feeling the presence of my grandmother and feeling the presence of my mother. My mother is no longer here. She passed in 2017 or 2018.
Mm.
So I feel fine talking about that, but like the mother was really intense and intensely critical
Mhm.
and kind of jealous.
Mhm.
And also has had other lovely nurturing qualities, but there were these are the ones as a child were it really impacted me. Um, so I think I'm really embarrassed. I'm in the scene, I'm really embarrassed by my daughter. She's just almost like I wish I had never had her.
Mm.
I really like it's
Yeah.
such a drag for Jean. And at
Mm.
the same time, there's like a something status about having this kid.
Interesting.
So there's like this conflict. There's just this conflict already within her. It's clearly not like a loving, nurturing, soul adding, I'm not supporting my daughter. I mean, I'm just not. And I
Yeah.
and and I don't think that I know what that feels like or what that looks like. And I probably have a lot of judgments about that,
Hmm.
right? Like how people raise those hippie kids, those people that raise those hippie kids, how can they do that? So dirty, you know? The whole thing is, Um, Jean is just really, in a way, like very blinders.
Hmm.
Anything, any like little hair out of place. Like you can imagine she's like probably a little OCD,
Hmm.
everything's got to be really tidy.
Well, that gets us onto the subject of appearance, and there's a really interesting line that comes up for your
Hmm.
character where, so first of all, in this episode, Jonah Berg, who is the reporter from Rolling Stone, He who wrote a book on Daisy Jones, he describes Daisy's mother as a beauty. In this episode in 1970, so we fast forward in time a little bit, we're going to see Daisy comes home. She finds Jean in her room. Jean is taking a stack of records out of Daisy's room, and she's reading Daisy's journal with her lyrics in it, which makes Daisy feels angry, but she's really vulnerable. This is like the most personal violation she could have had. And as Jean's leaving the room, Daisy says, "Are they any good?" And Jean says, "You're a pretty girl, Margaret."
Mhm.
Which I'm curious for you, like, why do you think that's the way Jean responds to this? What is her thought process to get to that answer?
There's never an acknowledgement of Daisy as anything other than an object.
Mm,
And I think also I'm not supportive of these adventures, right? I'm staying really straight with her. This is the direction I'm giving you. Go with your looks, kid. Go with your looks. Your looks, that's how you're gonna make it. That's how you're gonna get taken care of. That's what I did, and I mean that's what comes to mind now. I don't know. Um, it's also a way of just like again punishing her and controlling her and belittling her and in a way in my mind it's my method to keep her safe.
yeah. It's interesting. The most generous read of it is like, this is my life wisdom that I'm imparting to you. This is what I did.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not apologetic about it. I don't think that I'm being mean. I think I'm being helpful.
Oh wow. It's such a loaded
Uh,
thing to say. It's the type of thing that you would hear that would be so formative.
mhm.
And I think it's delivered that way as well. Like in this scene, I think, you have to pack a real punch with it. And it does have that ripple effect. And to describe Daisy as an object, um, is kind of an interesting angle that I feel like I need to rewatch a show now and think about like her being an object for the
Yeah.
rest of the series.
Mhm.
So, hmm, that's huge. Well, in the second episode, Daisy is going to leave home. She's going to stay with her friend Simone. By episode 4, Daisy has had some success with the Six. She's, writing a song, a hit song, performing at the Diamond Head Festival. Simone leaves for New York. Daisy goes back to her parents' house, but she has to break in and finds out that they've moved.
Mhm.
So, in the time that elapsed from when Daisy left home to go to Simone's to when she breaks into this house, what do you think life looked like for Jean? Like these parents picked up, left, didn't leave a forwarding address. What do you think that journey was for Jean? Like where do you think she went or like what was happening?
Well, I was thinking about it a little. I don't know. My sense is that she spiraled into like a bit of a kind of like a little Grey Gardens vibe, you know, like smoking while drinking and alone and broken and quite frozen and stuck in her own life and clearly not finding the joy, clearly not connected to her husband. Who knows what he's doing, right? I think that they had very, very separate lives and then he passed, right? And I'm left alone.
Hmm.
Um, alone in my like little dungeon house. I don't know. It's pretty kind of dismal.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't, I think what did I do? Or, I think it was pretty vacuous, just
Oh,
A-
Jean.
just yeah, like just emptiness and not like the nice Buddhist kind. Just really, probably she was probably a little suicidal, I'm guessing.
Wow. I mean, it's such an interesting read on where it could have gone for her because like the way you were describing how she felt about, like little 8-year-old Daisy. It's like, well, in one read, maybe there was relief in Daisy leaving, but for you, it feels like it just went downhill, um, from that point.
Yeah, I know. I think that Jean is completely dependent on Daisy for her identity, for her sense of self and worth. And there's like I really need her. I really need her so much, and I'm punishing her. I need her and I'm punishing her. Come here, let me push you down. Come here, let me push you down. So that it's just like this kind of really sick dynamic. Um,
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, okay. I mean, we could go off on so many tangents about this, but I'll try to stay on track. To give a little bit of the middle of the story again here, in episode 8, we're going to see an envelope given to Daisy while she's on tour.
oh,
It's
right.
addressed to Margaret Daisy Jones and it's forwarded to the hotel where she's staying. There's no return address, but like given the way the envelope is addressed, it sends Daisy into a downward spiral. We know it's from her mom. Um, and it's episodes before we actually see this envelope opened. What do you think it adds to the story for Daisy's mom to be like this looming presence?
Hmm. Well, I mean, there's something threatening about me, right?
Not you, Nicole, but Jean.
Something threatening. And, there's just a sense like, what is she gonna do? Just like a crazy alcoholic or something. It's just you don't know, they're gonna write the letter. Maybe I thought about doing some interviews about her. Like, I mean I could have exposed her. I didn't, but like maybe I thought about it. Um, uh,
Interesting point.
um, So I don't know. I think I'm not entirely sure the intentions behind, you know, that specifically, but my first instinct is just to have a little bit of that kind of thriller energy just sprinkled in, you know.
Mm. It is a good point. She really could have a good story that like people would have snapped that story up if Jean had come forward and like shared.
I could have been like, here's the
Yeah.
best, you know, here's the baby pictures, but yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
So interesting psychologically that she didn't do something like that.
no. Yeah, it's and yet you know, she, she wants the recognition. She wants that thing that as like a mother, it's like you want that thank you or something, it's like and I'm trying to get it out of her. I'm trying to get this something back and she won't give it to me. And I think that in that scene specifically, um I don't know. I think a little bit like the Balrog in Lord of the Rings. Do you know that when like Gandalf is like hanging off the edge and and then you think like, oh cool, like the demon's gone. But then like that little tail like whips up and like wraps around the ankle. And and that scene is like I'm just that like tail. I'm just that little Balrog tail coming to like try to catch her one more time. Because I think psychically you can kind of sense when people have moved on or like they're disconnected or whatever. And I feel like maybe Jean was sort of feeling too much of an absence of like the thread, or she felt like the thread was disintegrating, so she kind of wanted to get it and reel it back in and play
Hmm.
the game like one more time, get
So
in line.
in your minds so we're talking about now episode 10, which is rock and roll suicide, because at that point Daisy does finally open this envelope and there's pictures. It's all we see, I think, is actually just the pictures. I don't know if there was a letter that went with it, but Daisy actually calls Jean, gets her on the phone, and they have this confrontation-ish sort of a conversation.
Mhm.
So in your mind going into that, this felt like this was Jean's last hurrah isn't the right word, but like sort of last attempt with Daisy.
Um, I don't know if Jean ever really thought that it would be the last. I think that she was just doing it because she had to. I was very, Jean, compelled to reach out and to like get my hit. Is that's kind of what I was trying to describe earlier. Like I need my hit because so much of who Jean is wrapped up with Daisy. So I'm kind of living vicariously through her and hating her this at the same time. Um, which is like a very confusing mother-daughter relationship.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, where the mother is like needing so much of the child and the child desperately wanting the love of the mother and like playing along, but then getting hurt. I mean, it's just this kind of like messy limping. And I'm just getting the other, I don't know why I'm filled with like Tolkien images. Like,
Feels like the right vibe though, doesn't it?
right?
Yes, yes, it does. I mean,
Yes.
you might have been addressing this before with a previous answer, but she sort of
Yeah.
insists on never calling Daisy Daisy. Like she keeps calling her Margaret. Is that coming from the same place as like you're a pretty girl, Margaret sort of energy, or was there something else motivating that for her?
I mean, I named her Margaret. That's her name, right? She wants me to call her some other name. I don't know. That's not her name. And like, I perceive that there's been a lot of artistry and creation and creativity around Daisy. Mm, but what kind of like, what, it's so hard to describe this, but there's just like a gut connection to your mother or to your child, and it's just like very deep, and all that stuff just gets like thrown aside, and then you can just jab at each other, and it goes straight through, right? Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Like
It sure
just
does.
it doesn't even take anything. It takes nothing. You can just slide this little thing and it goes straight through all the way. And whereas somebody else it wouldn't matter. And so I'm very aware of the impact that I have on her. And then I think that I marry kind of this hurting with helping.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of the way this scene plays out, this is a phone conversation.
Mm.
And in terms of the actual content of the conversation, Jean says she just wants to hear Daisy's voice, that she missed her,
Mhm.
and then takes one beat and her whole personality changes. And she's like, now here you are on TV news and in magazines making up stories about being an orphan. You're not an orphan, you selfish little shit. I'm your mother. We've been unpacking already like what Gene might be trying to do here. But I'm curious in executing this scene. First of all, were you having a one-sided conversation for this whole thing? Were you talking with Riley? Like, did you two talk about what this was going to look like? I always wonder with phone conversations like this.
She was on the phone with me. So we did it like that. I don't remember where she was exactly, maybe in a hotel or something, or at home or and I was 6 months pregnant for episode 10, and we were always trying to figure out how to hide it. So you don't really see much
Yeah.
see much of me. Uh
Because how
yeah,
bleak would that have been for Jean to have been bringing somebody else into this
right?
world? Whole
Dark.
extra level, yeah.
Uh,
So you were on the phone together.
yeah, yeah, we were on the phone together.
Hmm. In prepping for this, did you two talk at all about what this was going to look like, or did you show up on the day and you just sort of bounced off of each other?
Mm, no, I didn't even know. I didn't even know that she was going to be on the phone until I was on set. And then I was like, oh, cool. Um, I was just, I thought I would just be in a room doing it, you know. I mean, such is the life of a television set.
Well, it's an interesting conversation too because it probably is helpful to have the other actor to bounce off of, but at the same time, this is a conversation that's so like the way Gene switches from "I missed you" to like "you're a jerk" in a breath is something that is entirely in her own head. So it is sort of an interesting exercise that like you kind of needed to have all of this within you without hearing what Riley's reaction was going to be, because Riley's reaction is sort of
Yeah.
not the point.
Not
You
in
know, like,
not in my world.
yeah, not for Jean. Like
Yeah.
Daisy's reaction isn't it I guess is fuel, but it could be anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm completely unaware of her reaction. I'm just, I've been holding on to that for a long time. And I think I did miss her. Of course, I missed her. I missed a certain relationship with her, which is impossible. And I think in a way, like you selfish little shit, that whole piece of material. I'm just unleashing that little Balrog tale.
Hmm. That word selfish. So in episode 7, Daisy pretty much runs away to Greece after an unflattering article comes out about her in Rolling Stone magazine. Um, and we are going to see some lines and words from that article highlighted for us as an audience on screen. And presumably, because if you actually freeze the frame, the whole article is very negative about Daisy, but we see certain words bigger. And I assume that's because those are the words that impact Daisy more. And one of them that was magnified was the word selfish. And it really reminds me, it gets highlighted for me later in episode 10 when Jean actually says this word to Daisy. Is that like, what was that word? Was that the button Gene could push? Is it like, where does that word come from in terms of Gene's label on Daisy?
I think that I think that it's I think that probably the first time that Jean ever said that to Daisy, Jean got to kind of witness how it
Hmm.
rattled her and caused some confusion and instability. And it's probably, this Jean is just she knows how to wobble. She knew how to wobble her daughter. And that was the word. And she knows that, like, when I call her selfish, she can't handle it. She can't, you know. You
This
can
is
just
such an
imagine
interesting
her.
read on it.
You can imagine her like at a party just being like, watch this, and then like, see, you know? Like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think it's just a tool. I think it's just a tool that became really probably one of her best tools in her toolkit for controlling Daisy.
I love this read on it because I had interpreted it in the opposite direction in my deep dive, and I like what this unleashes because in the read that this was a trigger word that Jean had been using since Daisy was little. When Daisy sees it in Rolling Stone magazine, it would hit her on a different level to see it in print from somebody else's mouth, and it would be like reconfirmed. But in what you just said, it's cool because this is like, oh no, Jean's been keeping tabs on Daisy. She's been keeping an eye on what's happening. She watched and saw exactly what would be the most hurtful thing for Daisy's new life. And she's using that word now, knowing it's a weapon. Um, my goodness. All versions of this are sad, but it's like an interesting chicken or egg quandary.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it can go any which way, and it's whatever feels the most exciting to you.
Mhm. I have to ask about like, maybe the heaviest line we get. As this phone conversation with Daisy closes, Daisy says she thinks there are a million strangers who love her more than her mom ever did. And Jean responds, maybe, but they don't really know, do they? I mean, ouch, so okay. I know that for you it's more of an essence, but
Yeah.
a line like this is a really big line to approach. Do you remember anything about how you approached this one?
Um, I mean, I'm kind of feeling back into the day, into the scene, into this like little room. I can't really explain how it works. It other than that felt true. That felt really true. They don't know her. And
Yeah.
and Jean to this day feels that way. They don't know her. They know the Daisy she like created. And I think that Jean doesn't really believe in that kind of thing, you know? She's a
Mm,
little bit more kind of like old fashioned.
mm.
Um, I also feel like, I mean, again, like in a personal way, I felt like exercising my own kind of stuff with my own mother in that moment, or, mostly with my own mother, less my grandmother in that particular spot. But I mean, it's really just like a fuck you, right? It's
Mhm.
really like the underlying message is like, fuck you. Am I allowed to say that?
Mhm. Sure. Look, folks, we're having a conversation about Jean. It's gonna happen.
Just like it's so low. It's like the lowest that she can go, and it's the last thing she could think of to throw at her to try
Mhm.
to like cut her down, you know?
Yeah.
And it didn't work, you
I
know?
mean, it didn't, but it did rattle Daisy's cage. Like,
Sure, it rattled.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know like what Jean like what I mean, did Jean really want like Grey Gardens? I mean, did Jean really want Daisy like back with her at home, like making brownies? I mean, like
It's the great mystery.
right? What
It
did
really
Jean
is like,
really
what's the
want?
best case scenario here for Jean?
Yeah, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know, but there's just this sense like Jean was not able to fulfill her own personal wishes and dreams that she got kind of like pregnant and then like into this role, and that was just like this very stifled life in it. She's just that kind of mother that wants their kids to like be really thankful about it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's just
Yeah.
she just doesn't have that unconditional, loving, flowing thing. She
Yeah.
just never got it. She didn't get it from her mother. And her mother probably didn't get it from her mother. And Daisy broke the cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Daisy's like actually becoming like her spirit is actually like living, getting to like
Yeah.
its thing. And maybe next time for Jean.
Mm. It's so well expressed. I mean, I just think for a character that doesn't necessarily have a lot of time on screen,
Mm.
I'd be hard pressed to find one that had more impact. Like it really like what you say matters as Jean, and it resonates for the whole show. And I just loved sort of diving into your interpretation of not that any of us want to put ourselves in the shoes of Jean, but here we are. And I mean, it's really something. When you think about sort of the big picture of this project for you. I mean, you've worked on other projects. What was the experience? What's different for you about the experience of working on Daisy Jones and the Six?
Um, well, it was like a really big production. I mean, it was like costumes and like they had this incredible like costume, two huge costume trailers with all the, I mean, it was pretty epic. It was pretty epic. Walking onto set and just like all of the attention to detail and you know, it, I mean, I was there just maybe 3 days filming, 3 or 4 days filming. I forget. It was a little while ago now.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like they really just like they were really organized, which is so nice. It's so nice when everybody's doing their job and then you can just come on and do your job.
Mm. And you
Sometimes
mentioned
I like that.
wardrobe. Given that this was a period piece, what were there any particular elements of the period that really resonated for you that you were seeing on set?
Um, I don't know. I mean, my costumes were just like so beautiful. I mean, I feel like they were more beautiful like in in person than I mean, they looked beautiful on screen too, but like it's the detail and all the lame and um well, this got very hot in my light. Um, I don't know. I mean, that's basic. I don't know. It was just organized and people knew what they were doing, and that to me is just a heaven. Um,
Hmm.
hmm.
When did you know you were going to come back first? So when you booked it, you thought you knew about episode one, but at what point did you find out you were coming back?
Um, I think maybe when I was about 4 months pregnant or 5 months pregnant. And of course we had to let them know, and then I had to send a bunch of pictures, and I could hide it pretty well up until about 6 months or so, depending on the angle. Um, so yeah, I think around then.
Hmm.
We were still really, really deep in COVID, I think. I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Time.
Yeah. Okay, so you had maybe 3 or 4 days total filming, but did you have any favorite moments on set that stick out in your memory, whatever favorite might look like for you?
Um, Favorite moments on set. I don't know. It's such a dream. Like it's not, it's like it's just when I'm on set and then you've got period and then you've got costumes and lights and action. I mean, it's again, it feels like more of like not, how do I describe this? it's a dream. It just felt like a dream. I don't have a particular the moment that sticks out to me the most, I think, is that last scene we were just discussing where I'm sort of in my house and I'm on the phone and they had really decorated the room that I was sitting in. I had this like little velvet couch and I had this television across it. I don't think you see in the scene. And it was just really dark and depressing. And the cocktail. And I could just like smell. I could just smell it. I could just smell like like sweaty alcoholism. Like, and it just felt like home, in this like very, not good way.
It's interesting too because she had sent Daisy that envelope, that letter, like or those pictures so long before, and like it got forwarded to Daisy, and then Daisy sat on it for a really long time before picking up the phone. Daisy calls, and there's Jean right there at the phone, ready to field this call. Like it's like development was arrested for her or something. It's like she's just been here waiting for the call whenever it comes in.
Yeah.
Like, ooh,
Yeah. I mean, I think that she knew that she couldn't that she would call. She
mhm.
absolutely would call.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
power.
yeah, that's it. That's the hook, the mother hook. And it's the mother hook until you unhook yourself.
Yeah, so true. Well, I know it's been some years since you were on this set, but I wanted to give you a chance if there were any people on the cast or crew that you really enjoyed working with, either by name or by role or whatever comes up for you. This is a chance to sort of acknowledge sung or unsung heroes who were part of the journey for you.
Oh. Hmm. My husband, whose name is escaping me right now. I should have prepared that. But he was great because I think I was just pregnant in during episode 1, and he just kind of kept me sane and grounded and would tell me stories about his family and his kids, and he sent little books for Ravi, and I don't know, he was just wonderful to work with. And I think there was some talk about him coming back in episode 10, and then I got the script and I didn't see him in it and I was really sad. Um, but yeah, he was great. And Riley was fantastic. I mean, the scene, particularly, I mean, the scene that I had with her in her bedroom, um, I was just really impressed with her softness and her vulnerability and her availability. And she just felt very clean and aligned. And it's just wonderful to work with people like that are just simply like there. So yeah.
So good. Well, I'm gonna give you an interviewee's choice on which of these next questions you answer to wrap us up here because it's been such a strange time in your industry. So, what are you working on now that you can talk about, or are there any projects that you want to shout out from the past? Feel free to plug anything here that answers one of those questions.
I'm not working on anything right now. Basically, our son just turned 3. He can almost do that. He's kind of does it like that. So, that's been the project for the last 3 years. And there have been some things that have come and gone, but nothing that's really stuck out to me. I live out here in the woods and I've got this little boy running around, and it has to be kind of interesting to get me out of here. Um,
It's so beautiful.
yeah, and I am doing some writing. I write sutras, and so I'm compiling a bunch of these sutras, and we'll see what happens with those. And then I also work with people. I work with people privately, and it's like a non-dual trauma release work.
And then you took this role on.
Yeah, yeah. So I have my hand in a few different pots, and we'll see. I mean, I'm excited for what's to come. I feel like for me, the roles just kind of come, the right roles just come, come. And, you know, I have an old agent in New York named Paul, and whenever I wanted work, he would just say, well, go move a plant, go home and move a plant. And, so I might be moving a few plants again. I mean, we'll see.
Well, thank you so much for taking all this time and unpacking your experience and Jean for us. I mean, I can't thank you enough for the way that you depicted her, because I think this show really looks at womanhood and motherhood in so many different ways. And Jean's one of those examples. Like this is an option. So it's like
Yeah.
we saw all these angles and dimensions, and I think you just did such a beautiful job with her.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just amazed that there was any remembrance of her at all. So that's cool.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you again. And to everybody who's watching this, please go out there. Don't be the muse, be the somebody. Bye, everyone.